right, everyone. Hello. You are listening to the Minding Mind podcast, where we live life with ease, connection, and permission to just be. I'm your host, Evelyn LeVasseur, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am sitting down and chatting with Berga, and we are going to talk about trusting your instincts and setting boundaries. That was our original plan, but we're going to see where this takes us because our little pre-interview chat already started off great. Before we go ahead and get into it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Ray in her own words. And she says, I'm all about empowering you to live life authentically and on your own terms. My journey has been one of self-discovery, where I've learned to trust my instincts and break free from societal and family pressures. Through navigating the complexities of relationships, parenting, and personal growth, I've discovered the importance of setting healthy boundaries for my own happiness. As a guest on Minding Mine, I'm excited to share my insights and experiences, offering practical advice on embracing authenticity, making bold decisions, and finding joy in the process. Let's embark on this journey together and create a life that resonates with our truest selves. I absolutely love every word. And Ray, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I had goosebumps when you were reading that because my wish is for everyone to have that.
Yes.
I think it's when you are operating from a place where it feels good to you and you know that it is bringing joy, happiness, and love and connection. I think you have different energy when you do things, when you make decisions, when you are parenting, when you are in relationships, when you're in friendships. I think it's like a domino effect where if you start with yourself, it's a domino effect because it takes you to every single area of your life.
Yeah.
Because then everything depends on that, how you show up.
Yeah. I 100% agree because I did live my life, most of my life thinking, if this person could just see me differently, then things would change for me. If my husband could just see XYZ, things would change in our relationship. If whatever label I put on whatever happened, I would feel better. But the truth is that I saw all those relationships and their flaws as the determining factor when really it was me, right? Like if I saw me, then things would change. If I recognized my power, things could change. If I loved me first, I could be loved differently in my marriage, right? Like the more I fell in love with myself, the easier I began to feel love. So yeah, all of that.
Go on, because it just so resonates, especially in the beginning of when I was setting up my business, and obviously I was looking into coaching and all the best advice that was out there. And one of them, you've probably seen it as well, and probably audience, believe in yourself, right? And it's so corny, it's so overused, it is so, when you want to roll your eyes when you hear that. And at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. It starts with that. It starts with that because if you don't believe that you can or you deserve, for me, it was that I deserve. I knew that I can because I have this proof and evidence that I am X, Y, Z and I can do it. But that I deserve that. And when you said about people that if they would see this, it would be different. If they would do X, because it's so easy to see things in different people, but it's so hard to sit down and, okay, how do I show up? Yeah. What do I contribute to this relationship? Because for me, it was always my parents. I was thinking, oh, if they would just be proud with me, I would be different. If they would recognize what I do, I would show up differently. And then you have that question, okay, but why do I allow someone else to dictate how I show up? Because if I'm going to wait for that, I can wait all my life and it will never happen. It might never happen. And then, yes, it all starts with you.
The truth is that even when you want people to see or recognize something in you, the fact is that maybe they will, right? Maybe they will in time. But the fact is that they see you through a lens of their own pain. Like sometimes they can't even recognize the beautiful things about you because they can't recognize that in themselves. How can they be for someone else what they won't be for themselves? it doesn't even feel possible, right? I started doing something. You said something that with the, I wanted my parents to be proud, right? I definitely felt that. I wanted to hear that, but I recognized as a mom that what I was teaching my children, when I said, I'm so proud of you, immediately, so proud of you, what I was teaching them was that pride is an outside feeling, that
Mm.
pride is something you get from someone else.
But you have to earn it.
Yes, and you have to look for it.
Yeah.
And if you don't receive it from someone else, then it doesn't feel worth it. So I started changing the way I react to my girls, and I'm proud of them. I mean, I am proud of their work. I'm proud of the human beings that they are, but I don't tell them that first. When they do something great, I'm always like, holy cow, that was amazing. How do you feel?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like them, it's them first. It has to be you
Yes.
tell me what you feel first, and then I'll gush all over them. I'm so proud of you. You worked so hard. But I want them to know that the feeling of confidence and comfort and just like resilience, and that all comes from, I can't give it to them.
Oh, yes. And one other question that I say to my daughter is, are you proud of yourself?
Yes.
Before I say that I'm proud of you, are you proud of yourself? Because like you say, it needs to come from them.
Mhm.
And actually, whilst you were saying, something else came to my mind. It's we want our parents to be proud of us, but we are proud of our kids just because they are. They
Yes.
don't have to, they don't have to earn that. They don't have to achieve anything where you can be proud of them. But we never think that someone might be proud of me just because I am.
Yeah.
You're in that mindset of I have to do this, that, and the other to earn that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really like what you said, kind of to flip it when it comes from them, because it's true.
Yeah.
And they have to know that. They have to feel that.
Mhm. Like, I obviously want them to know that I'm proud of them, but I always want them to feel proud of themselves first. I don't want them to
Absolutely.
need my validation,
Yes.
right? Like that's an extra bonus, yes, but I don't want it to be like this. I can't go through life without having somebody tell me that I'm great.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
If they
love,
do, it's a bonus. And
right.
if they don't, I still am.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about the journey that you were on. You know, you mentioned before we started recording that you felt like you had to accomplish things. You had to constantly strive for more, for that feeling of
Yeah.
being seen and validated. And like, how did you go from, or first, what did that look like for you? What types of things were you doing? And how did you begin to recognize that, like, the validation you were seeking was your own?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question. Thank you. Yes, for me, it was, I always thought if I will be the best, then everyone will like me. Now I know it's so ambitious because we are not money, so we're not liked by everyone. But for me, it is already started in school because I wanted to have good grades and I was a really good student. I wanted to have the best grades because then I thought I will be rewarded with love and belonging, and people will, well, not people, but my family will say, oh, we're so proud of you, because I really, really wanted that. And to be fair, I'm still on a journey. I can't say that 100% of the things that I do that I don't crave that outside recognition. I think I would lie if I would say, oh, I'm there, I don't need it. I still need it. But now it is through the personal development that I have done and through NLP that I have been studying. I know where it comes from and I know why I feel like that, because obviously when we were kids, that is what we need, is it's the love, connection, and belonging. And if you don't have that, your self-esteem might suffer quite a lot. And I think for me, it was at that point when I realized that I could be really confident person. I can go in a room and I can present, I could speak in meetings, I can go up to a stranger and start a conversation. That was none of that was issue. But what was for me was that feeling inside. It was that although I was doing everything that was on the list, I started at the bottom, I worked my way up, I was working in the office, we had the house, we had the car. And yes, it wasn't the millionaire's lifestyle, but compared to where I'm coming from, this was the ceiling that I never even thought I would have. But then inside, there was still that feeling of, why am I not happy? What is it, that feeling, that sadness, or yeah, I would say sadness maybe. And I realized that my self-esteem was suffering. Yes, I was confident, but I didn't see myself as I was showing up. And that was the point where I realized, you know what? That is not okay. And I need to see myself worthy. I need to see myself as deserving. I need to see myself as how others see me. I think in one of my therapy sessions, I even said, why can't I see myself as others see me? And I think a lot of times that is the thing, that we can be told that you're doing a good job. Even when that recognition comes, oh, you are doing so good. But if you don't see it, you won't believe if someone else tells you. I had clients where they say, oh, I can't do this. And I'm looking at the facts and said, I can sit here and tell you all day that you can, because this is the evidence that you can do it. Until you see that you can do it, you're not going to do it. And yeah, and for me, definitely it was the moment where I realized that, look, that recognition from my parents might never come, and I have to grieve something that is not going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as silly as it sounds, I had to go through grieving process. And like I said, maybe it's not even 100% yet, but I am on a journey, and it is miles better than it used to be. And for me, it started, yeah, when I realized that it's my relationship with myself that needs to be nurtured.
How were you able to answer that question that you asked in therapy, that why can't I see myself the way other people see me? Like, how did you work through that question itself?
I think at that time I didn't really. And I think it was, it was something like, don't touch it and it's not going to be painful. And again, I had to come to a place where I was ready to touch it.
Mm.
I was ready to, okay, look, we cannot go longer because my relationship is impacted, my business is impacted, how I show up is impacted. So I had to have a really honest conversation with myself and say, okay, whatever is coming, we can deal with this. Let's do it.
I love it. I've read many times the idea that the relationships in your life, whether they be chosen relationships or familial relationships, the ones closest to you act as a mirror of all the things that you need to focus on yourself. And I feel like that is such an accurate description, because I notice, like, there are things that my daughter does, one of them, they will do, and I feel so triggered and so irritated, and then I'm like, oh wow, that is really about me, and that has nothing to do with them, right? Like, even in my marriage with my husband, there are some times that he does things that I will assign meaning to,
Yeah.
that he didn't even intend, right? Because that's the thing I need to work on about myself. It's not a him issue, it's a me issue.
And because we all have those stories in our head, right? We have to explain things. So if something happened, you are creating a story in your mind. It's something similar, like you said before, because we all come to everyday situations with our own experience, what we seen, what we heard, and what we experienced. So even if two people are at the same event or situation, the experience won't be the same. And it's the same in marriage or in any relationship, because it's two people from different backgrounds, with a different experience. You can't have the same reaction. And I think I would even take it a step further, that regardless of whatever interaction with people you have, it is a mirror. Because even if you walk down the street and something triggers you, there's something in you, something in that situation that triggered you. Is it a memory? Is it an emotion? Is it something else? But there is something. And then you have to be the one who is finding that answer.
Oh.
I just wanted to share that it came to my mind that I had a client session and she went to one of the places, and the reaction, she was talking to a woman, and the reaction that she had, she started crying. And she said, I don't understand. I'm a grown-up woman and I'm there crying because we had a slight argument. And she said, I didn't understand, where is it coming from? So in the session, we unpacked it, and it turns out that it took her to when she was a kid in a lesson at school. And she said, it just reminded me the exact feeling of how I felt when that teacher said XYZ to me. And then you think, there you go. So if you have that reaction, something is triggering you. And it might not be from yesterday, it might not be from a week ago, it might be from decades ago, but it's still there. And if you, like I said, I put that thing away from my mind, thinking, oh, I'm not ready to touch it. But it doesn't matter because it's still there.
You know, and I think that's another thing that's important to recognize is that we think emotions and thoughts and like it's all in our head, right? But like your body doesn't forget.
No.
Your body, there are situations that happen that can, just like you said, where your client recognized the very feeling she had when she was younger, your body will take you right back there.
Absolutely.
To remind you, like, this is the thing that hurt me, and I need to acknowledge it, sit with it, and learn to release it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it stays trapped in there. And every time a situation like that comes up again, that same physical feeling is going to keep coming back. I never knew that before. I thought for the longest time that feelings were in my mind. I could just either think them away or ignore them, and I didn't have to deal with them.
Yes. If I ignore it, it's like, if I can't see you, you can't see me situation, isn't it? But it's not, because even, I don't know for you, but I have definitely had those moments where you feel something like sense, you smell, and it just takes you back to a memory. And then like a wave of emotions from that memory is coming up. And obviously now I have recognized what to do in that moment, and you breathe and you, but sometimes I even stop and I'm, wow, that is amazing. But it's all there. Like you say, body keeps the score. There's that famous book, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all there, and it's not going to go away until you let it go away.
Yeah. It's like a nagging child that wants your attention.
That's a very good kind of comparison. Yeah.
It's going to keep coming back. So I kind of want to shift a little bit and talk about something that we were talking about before we started recording. And it is the idea that it feels good to finally live life your way, right? Regardless of what you were taught at church, regardless of what you were taught in your family, regardless of what society tries to shove down your throat as to what it is we're supposed to be doing. It feels good to live aligned with yourself. But how would you recommend, or what could you advise someone who's just starting to recognize, like, I don't agree with how my family lives. I don't agree with what society says, but I'm afraid to be cast aside. I'm afraid to not be accepted. I'm afraid to speak out.
It's such a beautiful question, because it was me for a long time. And I don't know if you can resonate with that, but that was me for a long time as well. And I think every journey is slightly different. And because every starting point is slightly different. But I think first thing that is, you need to make a decision that this is what I'm going to do, because no longer other way feels good to me, because there is you who is suffering. But at the same time, you can, for me, and maybe for someone else, it was that self-esteem, because I didn't believe that my thoughts matter. I didn't believe that what I wanted is validated, or that I can want it. So I think that is one thing as well, to work on your self-esteem. But also what it is get to know yourself. start with getting to know yourself, because a lot of times, and for me, it was for the longest time, I was just living off, oh, this is the idea, what I need to do, what I need to achieve, how I need to be. And you just go from checkpoint to checkpoint, not thinking, is it what I like? Is it what will be nice for me? Does this feel good for me? And I think you have to recognize that and get to know yourself to a point where, okay, this feels good to me, this doesn't. Why? Because it feels good to me because I feel XYZ, and it doesn't feel good to me because then I feel this, that, and the other. And I think you have to start with yourself. And then next thing, if you recognize that the closest people to you maybe are not the ones who can support you at this time, there are people who can. And I am probably not popular in this opinion, but I don't think that family that we come from is you have to be it and be a slave to the opinions and rules and regulations and things like that. For me, it's my experience, but I don't experience that the family that I come from is there for me. But I know that people who are even not my family are there for me. And I think for the longest time as well, for me, it was, well, if the family that I come from is not interested in me, then no one will. But that's the limiting belief that I had from the experience that I had. I had to work through it, and I had to reprogram my mind to see differently. And I think that's what it is. Again, going back to knowing yourself, working with yourself, and literally reprogramming what you believe in. But then again, goes back to, how does that feel?
Yeah.
Because I think I shared it before we started. For long years, I was doing that because of the spite, where I thought, I'm going to show you that I'm different. I'm going to show you that it can be different. And yes, it gave me the results that I wanted, but it didn't make me feel good, because still I didn't know myself. I didn't know what I like. I didn't know what I value. And it all, again, we just go back in circles, but it starts with you.
Yeah. I feel like ultimately that feeling of I'm not going to be accepted, they're not going to understand me, they're going to shun me, that's real, right? That's a very real fear. And that fear itself is validating. But I think for me, I started to see that even though the people closest to me didn't understand my journey, that doesn't mean they don't love me.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that I don't still demand respect for who I am, right? But ultimately, the question had to be, do I choose to appease them, or do I choose me?
Exactly.
And it had to be choosing me, because not choosing me meant choosing to live the rest of my life in betrayal of me. And I couldn't stomach the thought of living another day of my life as less than who I am.
Exactly. Oh, that's so beautifully put.
It's just, it's funny because at first I did feel a ton of resistance, a ton of negative commentary, a ton of like,
Ridicule even?
yeah, ridicule, criticism, judgments. And they were always like passive, never
Yeah, just
directly.
like passing comments.
Yeah. And they hurt. But now I can see the same people that commented those little passive aggressive comments, those jabs, now quoting things that I say when they make their decisions. Now, maybe showing up a little bit more as themselves. Like, so I guess at first the fear was very real, but choosing me allowed them to learn to choose themselves too.
Exactly, because again, you model and you live what you preach, isn't it? And I really like what you said about them not recognizing or shunning and things like that, not kind of taking you in. For a lot of families, that's actually true, because if you don't comply, you are out of the family. And obviously at that point, like I said, every journey is different. You have to be in a place where you have to do a really good thinking. Okay, what happens? Because that's something that I do is when I am faced with a decision, I always go through the scenarios. Okay, kind of take myself out of the situation and think, okay, in this scenario, this is the possibility, that is the possibility, and also there is a third possibility, and sometimes it's even more. And then what I do, I put myself back in and I would say to myself, okay, if I choose this scenario, how would I feel? If I choose this one, how would I feel? And I go through every scenario and then I sit with it. And it might be even taking you a few days to make a decision. And then you go back like, okay, you try to imagine and play out in your head, okay, if we do this, this is how it's going to be. And I feel like that. And you make the decision that feels the best for you. And then if you are with a decision that you're like, do you know what, I'm 100%, or I forgot the podcast, but it was in one podcast where it says you only have to be 51% sure. That you don't even have to be like 100%, but you have to be like, okay, you are the majority sure, even if it's just by a smidge, I'm in it.
Love that.
Yeah. And that's kind of also how I make my decisions, how it, not only how it looks on paper, but also how does it feel? Will it feel good for me? Because there might be a better option for others, but I know that then I am betraying myself.
Mhm.
And then I think, okay, how would I feel if I would do that? Would there be a resentment? Of course. Would I be angry? Most likely. And then again, you have to make a decision. If you decide to be with the option that makes you resentful and angry, if you want to make that decision, go for it. But you know yourself again and how you're going to feel and what you're going to do in that case. And if you choose something that doesn't feel good for others, but you know in your heart of hearts that this is exactly what I need, this is good for my family, for my kids, and you go against someone else, then you can prepare yourself for the moment when there's going to be those jabs, when there's going to be those comments, where there's going to be, if you go for family gatherings where someone's going to comment and someone's not going to like what you do. Because again, at the end of the day, you can't be liked by everyone.
Right.
You can't. And it's, again, working with yourself and reprogramming to what do you believe and what you choose to cultivate in your life.
Yeah. I think for me, like that point of choosing me had to then be followed by being really clear on my boundaries. And I know that people shy away, women especially shy away from having boundaries because they feel like they're isolating others. They feel like they have to have this confrontation about it. And I don't feel like boundaries have to be that way. For me, my boundaries are more subtle, right? If, for instance, I cannot stand gossip. It irks my spirit to sit and watch someone talk about someone else's misfortune. But my boundary is I'm not going to sit and take part in it. I don't have to fight with you, right? I can just remove myself.
Yes.
So if I'm at a party or a gathering and the conversation turns to gossip, I leave. Just walk away and go to a different area, you know?
Sorry to interrupt you. Even if you can't leave, you don't have to participate.
Right. That's a boundary.
First thing, when you feel really uncomfortable, what you can do, you can just stay silent and not participate. It will be awkward. Of course it will be, but you can do that. Second thing, when you feel more secure about yourself, you just can say, I actually don't want to talk about other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really politely. You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be arrogant, and it's not for them to have that boundary. But for me, you can talk whatever you want, but I don't want to talk about that person.
Yeah.
Or if they're not at the table, I'm not going to talk about them.
Mhm.
But it's again in that moment where you feel that you have to say it, or when you feel that you can't remove yourself, that's where it comes, oh my gosh, I have to be like them. I have to talk about it. I have to chip in. I have to gossip. And again, what do you want?
Right. What makes you feel good? Like, I think about if I had something horrible happen to me and people were sitting around the table talking about it, how would I feel if I walked in on that conversation? Horrible, right? I would never, It's not a part of who I am. But it's I can just walk away from it. And the other part is now having been so practiced in my boundaries and so confident in what makes me feel good, and recognizing that I will not choose anything ever again that goes against my gut, right? Where when somebody makes comments, some people think it's funny to make like racist or sexist jokes, right? And just, it's a joke, where I will just now in more comfort will say, can you explain that to me? What did you mean exactly?
Yeah.
Like, because yeah, like I'm really not, I'm not laughing. So can
Yeah.
you explain that to me? Because I missed the joke. And I think it helps also them to recognize where they were wrong in their statement, or if they don't recognize that they're wrong, at least they recognize that I'm not the one who's going to sit and take those comments either, right?
Yeah.
So even though I didn't say my boundary is that I don't want to laugh at sexist or racist jokes, I didn't have to say that out loud. But by simply asking, what did you mean by that? It let them know, like, this is not for me.
And I think it's also awareness that, again, the same sentence can land completely different to different people. So know your audience.
Know your audience, for sure. I love that. So I feel like our journeys are different, but they're so similar in the same right. And that's what I love about just speaking to women from all over the world, is that you get to see how related we are, right? Like how we're all connected.
Oh, yes, yes, to
So
that.
connected, right? We're so connected. And like it is in having these conversations, in recognizing like that our pain is the same, in seeing that we all just want the same basic human things, to be seen, loved, and validated, right?
Oh, yes.
Those are basic needs, but we also get to see that we have to give it to ourselves first, and then we stand together.
Yes. Oh, I love it. You put it so nicely, because we all are wired to be loved, connected, and belonging, to the family unit, to wider unit, to women, like to the community. And if you take it wider and wider, the community is, we live on the same planet.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you.
I love it. I love it. I love this conversation, and I know that I will keep you far longer than I told you that I would. So I am going to go ahead and ask you, if people were looking to work with you, if people were looking to talk about coaching or be a part of your community, where can they find you?
The best possible place where you can find me is Instagram and Facebook. I also run a closed Facebook group, which is Empower Her Journey Lounge, where I do lives. And if I run challenges, then I run in that group. In May, we did Confidence Challenge, which was absolutely amazing. And every day had different tasks. In that group, everything is for free. I show up in lives there, we have conversations. And the next thing that we start next week, it's accountability circle. Because I realized, when we have goals and we want to do something and we have dreams, a lot of times we know exactly what to do. And yes, I heard that. I know what I need to do. But then for some reason, we're not doing it. And now I'm going to run an Empower Her accountability circle, which will be online calls, support in between, setting goals, reaching the goals, looking why maybe we don't achieve when we say we're gonna, and how to actually get to the place where you're like, yes, I did it. And yes, that's my group and my profile on Facebook and on Instagram. That's the best place where you can find me, and it's Berga.
Beautiful. And I'm going to make sure I link everything in the show notes so people know where to find
Thank you.
I love, love, love our conversation and our connection. Before I can let you go is the question of the hour. And the question is, how does minding yours impact the legacy that you will leave?
That's such a powerful question. I really like it. I will say lead by example, because if I'm minding mine, I'm showing not only my daughter or my immediate family, but I'm showing to everyone, and I'm leading by example how empowering yourself, you can empower everyone else around you as well. And like you said, because we are community, everyone is connected, we all are connected. And it's a domino effect then from yourself into your family, into your community, into your country, into your planet, because we are sharing our experience here.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, Ray, thank you so much for sharing your light with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I
And
really
I want to
enjoyed our
thank you.
conversation because I felt it was like, yes.
Yes, yes. It was an easy yes.
Yes,
An easy
absolutely.
yes. Yeah. All right. I want to thank everyone else for joining us both today and tuning in to another episode of Minding Mind. If this episode resonated with you, please comment, rate, and review the podcast. Your feedback helps me grow. And until next time, I want you to go live your life on your terms and mind your business. We will catch you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.